There is hardly any surface of the building which isn't decorated by carving and tracery, and the soft-coloured stone is complemented by patches of gleaming gold leaf. The most famous part of the building is, of course, the Great Tower, with its clock known as Big Ben, though that name really applies to the giant 13-ton bell that tolls the hour. The minute hands on each clock face alone are 14 feet long, and it's calculated that their tips will travel 100 miles round the clock face every year. The faces are lit up at night, and above the clock another light shines to indicate that the House of Commons is still sitting. The palace struggles to contain everything present-day MPs need to do their work, and they now have accommodation in surrounding office blocks. Nevertheless, the building still has some impressive statistics. It covers 8 acres and has more than 1,200 rooms, 126 staircases, 2 miles of corridors, and 11 open courtyards. But in centuries gone by, the Palace of Westminster wasn't the only royal palace around here. There was another one just a few hundred yards away. This aerial view, drawn in the 16th century by Robert Agassiz, shows Westminster Abbey and the Palace of Westminster right next to another royal complex on the river, the Palace of Whitehall. Henry VIII moved here in 1529 when he confiscated it from Cardinal Wolsey, and Whitehall was to become the largest palace in Europe, covering 23 acres. That's 3 times larger than Versailles. A French duke described it as being the ugliest palace in Europe, and inevitably it too was destroyed by fire, but its name and associations still live on. Nowadays, Whitehall is associated with government. If Westminster is where the Parliament is, then Whitehall is where the government is, the one accountable to the other. It's where the Prime Minister lives in Downing Street, carefully watched day and night by a select group of devoted journalists who record and analyse every movement in and out of Number 10. Little remains of the old Palace of Whitehall, and most of the present buildings, with their huge inner courtyards and impressive facades, date from Victorian times and house some major government departments, such as the Home Office and the Treasury. Nearby, and an endless fascination to tourists, are the Horse Guards sitting immobile on their horses, the subjects of uncountable photographs. Behind them, the Guards' quarters, built in the 1760s, and behind them, Horse Guards Parade, where the Queen takes the salute each year on her official birthday. The back garden of 10 Downing Street looks out onto the parade. This area, then, has had long and close connections with monarchs, the church, and parliamentary and governmental power. But back in 1066, when Edward the Confessor died, the course of British history took a dramatic turn. His successor, Harold, lasted but a few months before William, Duke of Normandy, arrived to take up a promise he'd been made that he would become king on Edward's death. The matter was decided at the Battle of Hastings, and later that year William, by now the Conqueror, was crowned king in the Abbey. He settled into the Westminster Palace nearby, reinforcing the idea that the City of London would remain separate from Westminster. But William still needed to impress on the English that he was the power that mattered and he was here to stay. And to make the city and everyone living east of here aware of that, he built a great tower right at the end of the old Roman wall, a tower which has since become one of Britain's greatest landmarks, the Tower of London. William's choice of location was strategically sound. The tower commanded river access to London and beyond, and its impressive walls would have been a powerful presence on the edge of the city. It's the famous central tower that William built, better known as the White Tower, not because it's faced with stone from France, but because Henry III had it whitewashed.